To continue to contextualize this notion of units of risk today, what do you think are some of the maybe overlooked sources of risk in the system as you see it, since you get to see it from every angle? And this is early summer 25.
We have experts at Sixth Street, like my partners, Marty Chavez, who's on the board of Google, and Adam Korn, who ran Goldman Sachs Engineering Business, who are experts on AI. So I'm not an expert on AI, but I think one of the things that you've talked about on your podcast is just the whole transition from sort of once the productivity gains start to come, there's obviously going to be job losses, and just the transition to sort of, remobilize capital, and just how's that going to work? How's that going to work with the real economy? I don't think enough people are talking about it. One of my good friends, Jeff Weiner, former CEO of LinkedIn, he's the chairman. Him and I have been talking about this for a while, and I think for the first time, Anthropic CEO actually came out and said something publicly. So what I'm worried about there is that we're so focused on competing with the U.S. stated against other countries, specifically China, companies, all the big hypers, the MAGA 7, they're all focused on competing with each other, and I don't think there's enough people talking about how we're going to manage this transition. As again, there's going to be lots of productivity gains, which I'm all for, but there's not enough talk about that. Like, to me, it's like it should be code red people talking about it, and that's not happening. So I'd say that's one. I think the other thing, and I think it's an opportunity. Look, you look at the average wealth investor, so the Wealth Channel, which I'm sure people have talked about on your podcast. They're relative to just a traditional, in their private portfolios, they're underexposed to private alternatives relative to, say, a pension fund at, call it 40%, or an endowment at 50%. So at 3 to 5%, that should probably go up. But again, the transition, there's now, everyone's all about the Wealth Channel, everyone's talking about that. The transition to do that in a way that's responsible to those wealth investors, those end market. And I think, getting to the right structures so that, that's done in a responsible way. I think that is something to watch out for. Jamie Gates, godfather of Sixth Street, one of the things he taught me early on is, like, just because you can raise capital doesn't mean you should. And I think that's, just because you can raise, I think as a GP, as a manager, just because you can raise it in the Wealth Channel doesn't mean you should. And I would espouse that advice to all of our people in our industry.